When incarceration began in 1942, over half of the Nisei were under the age of 18, meaning that education would be an important part of life at camp. So important, in fact, that school began on October 5th, 1942, not even 2 months after the first incarcerees arrived. School was organized by Clifford D. Carter and John Corbett, the superintendent and the first principal of Hart Mountain High School. Both had been educators and administrators in Wyoming and brought years and decades of experience with them. The staff for the school was comprised of two main components, much like, say, Hart Mountain Hospital: white teachers and Japanese American teachers. Many of the white teachers were hired through the Civil Service Commission and came from outside of Wyoming, say from Nebraska, for example. And if they came from another state, they were issued a Wyoming State Education Certification, good for anywhere in Wyoming. Japanese American teachers, however, were also issued Wyoming State certifications, however, theirs were only valid at Hart Mountain. Another difference between the two teachers was the difference in pay. A white teacher, for example, could earn up to $166 per month. A Japanese American teacher, on the other hand, was capped at $19 a month. The same as a doctor at Hart Mountain Hospital and less than a private in the Army. One of the constants of school at Hart Mountain was the turnover in staff. Many teachers left to serve in the military. Many Japanese American teachers left for relocation or for a better paying job. The turnover rate was so high, in fact, that only one person, one staff member, was at Hart Mountain High School for the 3 years it was open. When a teacher left, often a Japanese American teaching assistant would fill in, substituting in for that teacher for months at a time while the administration searched for a replacement. The first year of school at Hart Mountain was difficult, and there were numerous limitations due to how quickly the school was set up. Classes were held in barracks buildings, usually without ceilings or without installation, meaning that the rooms were freezing cold and that a class held in, say, room A could easily interrupt a class in room E, just because sound would travel so far. Blackboards were often just plywood and painted black, and there were usually only enough books for one class of students, meaning that if there was homework, there would be a rush to check out a book at the end of the day to do the assignment. Another limitation was the student-teacher ratio, often a benchmark for any school. In the rest of Wyoming at the time, the ratio stood around 29 students to 1 teacher. At Hart Mountain High School, that ratio was 50 to 1. Further complicating matters was the fact that many students were removed from school mid-year in 1942. It was hard to decide where exactly a student should fall, and most students were given an intelligence test at the beginning of the year, meaning that some were held back, some went forward a year, and some managed to find their way into the right grade level. Construction on Hart Mountain High School was completed on May 27, 1943. Blocks 13 and 16 in the original plan of the camp were left intentionally empty to allow for the construction of the high school. It was constructed largely by Japanese American incarcerees with help from a contracting firm in Billings. It consisted of 39 classrooms, a gym/auditorium, wood machine shop, home economics facilities, and a library. Now, 1943 and 1945 are considered the settled years for school at Hart Mountain, and students got to lead a more normal, settled life. They got to choose a mascot for the high school, it was the Eagles, school colors, blue and white, and they got to do the activities that would normally be associated with high school. Sports were very popular, particularly basketball and football. The football team actually only lost 1 game over the course of the 2 years. There were plays and dances held in the auditorium, and there were yearbooks available for 1944 and 1945. In November of 1944, the Supreme Court in the Ex parte Endo case declared that Japanese Americans would be allowed to return to the West Coast, meaning that camps would be closing down soon, within about a year. The last day of school at Hart Mountain High School was May 25th, 1945. Following the closure of camp, the high school was torn down, much like the rest of the camp. All that's really left is this building behind me, part of the records room of Hart Mountain High School. It's one of the few structures still standing in its original location. As you can see, the rest of the area is now largely farmland.